The 2020 race is picking up pace, and we're here to make sure you know where the candidates stand on the most important issues, like campaign finance. To understand money in politics, it helps to first take a look at the Supreme Court's 2010 Citizens United versus FEC ruling, where 5 of the 9 justices agreed that any money spent by individuals, nonprofits, unions, and corporations that does not go directly to a candidate or a party cannot be limited. That means super PACs can get loaded up with as much money as humanly possible. In response to that, every major 2020 Democratic candidate has denounced the Citizens United decision and called for it to be overturned. They've also signed on the No Fossil Money pledge, sworn off taking money from any corporate PAC, and for the most part said they reject the influence of super PACs entirely. The thing about super PACs is that they are designed to work separately from campaigns. So in theory, any candidate can say they do not support a super PAC, but it can still use the funds to run political ads in their favor. And the candidate can say, well, I had nothing to do with it. It wasn't me. Here's an example. Cory Booker said he did not want a super PAC supporting his campaign, but a very wealthy Democratic donor, Steve Phillips, started one anyway and raised $1.1 million in the first half of 2019. Former Vice President Joe Biden has also denounced taking money from super PACs, but his campaign recently flipped on that stance, blaming recent attack ads against the former VP by the Trump campaign as proof that the president is using big-time money to influence the Democratic primary. In a statement to NBC News, Deputy Campaign Manager for Joe Biden, Kate Bedingfield, said that Biden as president will push to remove private money from our federal elections, including through a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United to what they say ends the era of unbridled spending by super PACs. Now, private fundraisers, they are still a very big cause for concerns. And in early September, Joe Biden attended 2 fundraisers where tickets went up to $2,800 a head. His main opponents for the 2020 Democratic nomination, Senator Bernie Sanders and Senator Elizabeth Warren, are the only candidates to publicly reject holding these kind of top-dollar private fundraisers. Sanders, who has raised the most amount of money among the 2020 Democratic candidates with more than $70 million as of October 2019, has done so in large part with the help of small individual contributions. Taking super PAC money or attending high-dollar fundraisers, it might not align with the message 2020 Democrats are trying to send about campaign finance, but if you think dollars can translate into votes, they're going to need to pick up the pace to compete with the president. His re-election campaign has raised more than $165 million in the 2020 election cycle so far, with another $75 million coming from PACs that support him. So how do actual Americans feel about this? Well, a January 2019 Gallup poll surveying American satisfaction levels with the state of the nation found that only 20% of people were very or even somewhat satisfied with the United States' current campaign finance laws. So this is certainly a big issue on both sides of the aisle, and one we'll be keeping an eye on as we get closer to November 2020.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.